What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel an update to my LIBROMANCER MIKANKO deck profile for the post-Legacy of Destruction format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh! Content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of my uploads. We are currently working our way to 2,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So, with the intro out of the way, I do want to apologize for the lack of content for the past week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I've just been completely swamped with work. I've also been working some weekends as well. So it's been really hard for me to actually be able to bring you guys content, especially as I'm trying to find time to also test that content to ensure that I'm bringing you guys the most optimized deck list possible. That way, you know, that I'm not giving you guys content that really, in the grand scheme, isn't that great, or that wasn't left in the oven as long as it could have been, so to speak. So I wanted to make sure I gave this list some extra time to cook, and I'm actually happy to bring it to you guys now. So like I said, I'm going to continue trying to bring you guys regular content updates at least every week. But again, you know, my job's been kind of getting in the way of that a little bit, but I'm not going to let that stop me from trying to bring you guys really awesome content, such as this deck here. So LIBROMANCER MIKANKO is the deck that I've brought to the channel once before, well, actually several times before, and as far as I know, I'm the only person who's built LIBROMANCER this way, because I'm always capitalizing on the fact that LIBROMANCER Fire happens to be a Cyberse monster, and because of that, I found really cool and unique combos as well as monsters that happen to be Cyberse as well, that make this deck play more like a Cyberse link spammy kind of deck, as opposed to the most traditional LIBROMANCER list that I've seen, where they're either Archlord Christia variants, or other, random nonsense, and then they're mainly just playing like your, ritual dot deck set of cards, like diviners and whatnot. It's all very telegraphed, and that's fine, but I feel like this particular list stands out pretty far from the rest, simply because it's not a list that like you've ever seen before. It is extremely unique, and I couldn't be happier to bring this list to you guys. I wanted to bring it back to the channel just because I feel like right now the format's just a little bit stale. We just had YCS India not that long ago, or last week at time of recording, and it was just dominated by Snake Eye, and it's just Snake Eye everywhere. To be fair, I'm kind of getting tired of seeing it, and it's just, we either need a ban list or a set needs to drop, to kind of help change the format. However, if we do get Infinite Forbidden, which is our next core set, and Konami does not address the Snake Eye stuff, then we're going to be seeing Snake Eye Fiendsmith all over the place, and the format's, to be fair, really isn't going to get any better. So I wanted to kind of stray away from that a little bit and bring you guys something that is really unique and actually has a chance to compete, maybe not on a competitive level, but definitely in like a locals or even a regional setting. This deck list actually cooks pretty hard. So with that all out of the way, I want to go ahead, and you know how we do here on the channel, we always start with the monster lineup first. So it is a 50 card deck list. Now don't let that deter you from thinking that it's not consistent at all, because to be fair, it actually is. And I'll explain more about that as we get through the profile. So we're starting off with the monster lineup, triple copies of the best normal summon in this deck, Formid Skipper. Now this is a level 1 light Cyberse monster, has an effect to reveal a link monster in your extra deck, and then if this card is linked off, he can be treated as material with the same name, type, and attribute as that revealed monster. Pretty niche effect, however, there are some really goofy things you can do with this card. And then in addition to that, if this card is sent to grave as link material, he can search for a level 5 or higher Cyberse monster from the deck to your hand. Now that doesn't seem that relevant until you understand that LIBROMANCERs have a level 5 or higher Cyberse ritual monster that can be searched, thus enabling your LIBROMANCER plays, which I think is pretty cool. And it's not as telegraphed as like a diviner, for example, where like, if you summon diviner, pretty high chance that's getting hand trapped. Whereas if you summon Formid Skipper, it's so unassuming that like there's a very high chance your opponent's not going to waste a hand trap on this, simply because they want to see where you're going. So I find that most of the time the graveyard effect does resolve, and it gets me the search that I need to help jumpstart my LIBROMANCER plays. So with that being said, we have a playset of LIBROMANCER Fire. For those of you who don't know what a LIBROMANCER is, it was a TCG exclusive archetype that came out back in Battle of Chaos, and I believe they got their second wave in Dimension Force, or DFO. But it's a ritual archetype, and all their monsters are extenders of sorts as long as you have a ritual in hand to reveal. They all special summon themselves, and then when special summoned, they all do something. In Fire's case, when he's special summoned, he lets you add a LIBROMANCER monster from deck to the hand, thus being this deck's pretty much Rhoda of sorts, and also an amazing starter and or extender, depending on the case when it comes up. But really amazing card, definitely want to max out on it. It's also a Fire Cyberse monster, which, like I said, plays very well into what this deck wants to do. Up next, we follow that up with 2 copies of Libromancer Geek Boy, followed by 1 Libromancer Agent. Now, Geek Boy, again, same summoning condition as Fire, and as well as Agent. All 3 Fire, Geek Boy, and Agent have the same summoning requirement. Reveal a ritual in hand, and then you can special summon them. Just like Fire, Geek Boy does have an effect when special summoned. In Geek Boy's case, he can add a Libromancer spell from deck to hand. Now, Agent is the only one that does not have a trigger effect on summon. His effect is more of an ignition effect, where during your main phase, you can target a Libromancer card in grave and add it back to your hand. However, if it was a spell trap card, you have to take a card from your hand and place it on the bottom of the deck, which again isn't really a problem. Agent's more here for recursion, but effectively all 3 Libromancers that we main deck, which is Fire, Geek Boy, and Agent, all effectively serve as really great extenders as long as there's a ritual in hand to reveal. So really cool setup there, and that's rounds out the Libromancer monsters that are not rituals, at least. Now moving on to the Mikanko package. So we play 1 each of Huli, or 1 Nini and 1 Hare. Now the Mikankos, the reason why I play Mikanko Libromancer is simply because in Libromancers, their biggest drawback is kind of the fact that they need to have rituals to reveal. And most of the time, ritual monsters are just bricks or garnets. Like, they don't really do anything in the hand, and they're not really cards you want to draw most of the time. Mikanko solves this issue by giving you a really insane ritual monster, Ohime, who actually has an effect on her own. So it makes her not a brick when you draw her. So not only can she be used as like an extender to pop off on your Libromancer lines, but Ohime herself can be revealed and then do things that relate to her own theme. Now the Mikankos, they kind of work like how Yubel works, where they have this damage or battle reflection gimmick, where as long as they have equip spells attached to them, I don't take any damage, the opponent takes any damage I would have taken, and they cannot be destroyed by battle. And then Hare and Nini, while they're, Hare and Huli, when they're equipped, they have trigger effects. Huli allows you to grab a Mikanko trap from deck to hand, and Hare allows you to grab a Mikanko equip spell from deck to hand. Nini is the only one that doesn't have a trigger when she's equipped, but what she does is as a quick effect on the opponent's turn, while she's equipped with an equip spell, she can target a monster the opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. So she's kind of like a snatch steal on legs. And then Hare and Huli are more of like, you know, proactive, where Nini's more reactive. But they're all just one-ofs. Like, these cards by themselves are not starters or extenders necessarily, so you don't want to clog on too many copies of these because they can brick your hand. So I think having them each as one-ofs is absolutely incredible. Like, it keeps the consistency down, and you play all the names anyway, so like you have everything you need. It's very versatile, and it doesn't, you're not like drowning yourself in copious amounts of these to help, like I said, brick your hands, since you want to mitigate that at all costs. But very cool, like I said, archetype, and the damage reflection gimmick is pretty difficult for most decks to try and play around. One thing I did not mention is that with Huli, while there's an equip card on my field, your opponent cannot target Mikanko cards you control with card effects. That includes your back row as well, which makes them very difficult to remove when you think about it. So one of each of the Mikanko girls. Then moving on, we have 2 copies of Parallel Exceed, again, because this is a Cyberse based deck, and it does try to link climb pretty hard. So Parallel Exceed is just absolutely perfect for that. We also have 1 copy of Visas Starfrost in the deck list still. This is because we reveal a link monster in our extra deck through the effect of Format Skipper that allows us to go ahead and grab this card. So, and it also functions as a really nice extender, also being a level 6 tuner, which comes up for something that we play in our extra deck. Then we also play the 1 Magician Souls because, spoiler alert, we are playing Illusion of Chaos. It's just a really strong ritual to play in this deck, something that you can reveal to pop off on your Libromancer lines, but also Illusion of Chaos himself is not a brick because he hasn't his own hand effect, which I think comes up useful. So we do play the 1 Souls, obviously. Then we're also on 1 copy of EMP Meow Mine, brand new addition to the deck. This is just another really insane Cyberse extender, and has a really awesome effect in the graveyard where when a Link 2 monster I control leaves the field or is sent to the graveyard, I can banish this card from my grave to target a card the opponent controls and return it to the hand, which is really, really powerful. So very nice there. Definitely been enjoying playing that as a one-off tech choice in the list. Then moving on to some of our non-engine that we play in the main deck, we do have a playset of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, followed by a playset of Nibiru, the Primal Being, as our non-engine slots. Not only was I able to increase this deck's consistency by, it still maintained that 50 card count, but I was also able to increase the non-engine slots in this list as well. I just feel like Mourner and Nibiru, this format, are really strong, And they play into how the Mikankos work. Because like if you nib your opponent, you can just use the Mikanko Girls to crash into it. The nib token, thus gaming your opponent usually on the spot. And then same thing with Mourner. Like you can negate their stuff, and then if they get rid of it, or we get rid of it, they take damage equal to that monster's attack, which just helps us facilitate the OTK. Because not only can Mikanko OTK, but Libromancers have some very strong OTK tools at their disposal through their ritual monsters as well. So, you know, even if you lose the die roll and go second with this deck, you still have a very high chance of winning that game, actually. Now moving on to the rituals that we play, we're on 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos, like I had stated before. You just need really strong rituals to reveal for the effects of your Libromancer monsters, and Illusion of Chaos is perfect for that. Then you play 2 copies of Ohime herself, the Manifested Mikanko. This is the Mikanko boss monster. Like I said, she can reveal herself in the hand to add a Mikanko card from deck to hand, and then you discard a card. Then as a quick effect, she can take equip spells engrave and place it on an appropriate monster on the field. The other half of the Mikanko deck is full of equips, which we'll get to when we get to the spells. Very interesting archetype, that it's like a ritual archetype based around equips. Pretty interesting. But like I said, these 2 ritual monsters in particular serve as great fodder for the Libromancer lines, because again, rituals inherently are pretty bricky, and you want to play rituals that are going to help further your plays and extend you, and not just be garnets in the hand just to facilitate your Libromancers. In addition to the 2 Ohime, we also play the one of Arahime, the Manifested Mikanko. Now, Arahime has been pretty much abandoned by most of the Mikanko community, just because she doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. But in this deck, however, because you need rituals in hand to reveal for the Libromancer effects, Arahime fits actually perfectly in this deck, because not only is she a great ritual to reveal, to facilitate your Libromancer lines, but she, just like Ohime, which I forgot to mention, Ohime also has the damage reflection gimmick built in. She does not need to be equipped for her to reflect damage. Arahime has that same clause, and in addition to that, while she's in the graveyard, she's actually disruption, or in the hand. If we have a Mikanko card in our grave, we can actually use her effect from hand or graveyard, equipping herself to a monster on the field, and then during the end phase, as an optional effect, we can bounce the Arahime to hand and bounce the monster she was equipped to. So even though it's slow removal, it is removal nonetheless, you know, for our opponent stuff, or we can use Arahime to equip to our own targets, and, you know, like our own Mikankos, for example, and proc their when equipped effects, which is pretty cool. But what's important is that Arahime is a ritual that can bounce herself back to the hand, always ensuring that I have a ritual in my hand to reveal for my subsequent follow-up Libromancer plays, which I felt was really, really strong. So that is our ratio of those particular rituals. Now moving on to the Libromancer ones, we have 1 copy of Fireburst, which, although it is a garnet in the hand, it is searchable off of the Formid Skipper's graveyard effect when sent to grave as link material. And this card, when going second, is just a monster. It does double damage and can attack up to 2 monsters while also not being able to be destroyed by battle. Just makes him an OTK enabler. And then when we're going first, we also play 1 copy of Doombroker. Again, not ideal to have in the hand, but when going first, he allows you to set a Libromancer trap from your deck, of which we'll talk about when we get to the traps, but that trap is really, really strong when going first. And even if you're going second, Doombroker, just like Fireburst, is also a great at OTKing, because not only does he have the ability to attack directly, but if he inflicts damage to the opponent, he can target a monster the opponent controls and shuffle that monster back into the deck. Really awesome removal, in my opinion. So these are the 2 Libromancer rituals that we choose to play in this list. And then to round out the last ritual is 1 copy of Cyberse Sage, because again, this is a Cyberse focused deck list, and I think Cyberse Sage is just absolutely incredible in this list to be running. She allows you to fusion summon by banishing material from grave, but she is also a tuner monster, which now gives you access into synchro lines as well. And then when sent to grave as synchro material, she either adds a ritual spell or a Cyberse monster from grave back to your hand, which is very, very strong. So play her as a 1-of in the deck. That rounds out the monsters. Now diving into the spells, we do play 2 copies of Libromancer First Appearance, followed by 1 copy of Origin Story. Now First Appearance is amazing because this is how they're able to ritual summon. Libromancer, while they do have a ritual spell, to be fair, it's actually not that great, but they have the ability to ritual summon through their field spell, which is pretty much unprecedented. As far as I know, there's not any other ritual theme that ritual summons using their field spell, which I think is really great. So on activation, searches the Libromancer monster from deck to hand with a different name than cards you control. So it's pretty much just a Rhoda on activation. And then while it's on the field, you can ritual summon 1 Libromancer ritual from your hand, by attributing monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed its level. Then you have Origin Story. Pretty much this works like the Fire King Sanctuary, where when this card's activated, you can set a Libromancer spell trap directly from your deck, which does include the field spell. And not only does it also buff your Libromancer rituals by 100 attack times their level, but it also gives a beneficial trigger effect where when a monster's ritual summoned, you can target a spell trap in the field and destroy it. So I felt that the 1-2 ratio was absolutely perfect. Again, for consistency, you grab these cards off Libromancer Geek Boy, and those of you who have played Libromancers know like the Geek Boy into, you know, first appearance into fire, and then fire into a ritual loop that they can pull off, which is pretty strong. Then up next, now we're going into the Mikanko ritual, or Mikanko equips, excuse me, of which we play one-ofs of each of them. Now you're probably wondering, why do we play one-ofs of all this? And this is simply because I was going for maximum consistency with this deck list, and the problem is that most of these Mikanko equips don't really do anything by themselves. They require setup, or at least additional bodies. The only one that's really good to draw is Arabesque, but however, Arabesque is a hard once, so drawing it into multiples doesn't feel that great, especially since this is not a pure Mikanko list. We do side deck the other 2 copies of this, so we do have 3 in the deck, like, you know, post side. But I just felt like for the consistency aspect of it, playing one-ofs of all these is absolutely perfect. I mean, so Water Arabesque is kind of like a Compulse times E-Telly. It bounces a monster and then specials a Mikanko from deck, which is very strong. Note that all the Mikanko equips, with the exception of Reflection Rondo, have the effect where the equipped monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, which again just makes it even more difficult for the Mikankos to be interacted with. Male Washidori is really strong, not only serving as a monster reborn from the graveyard, but also at the end of the damage step, if a Mikanko battled, we can target a card in the field, return it to the hand. And then Fire Dance is just your generic monster reborn. Equip, you activate it, special summon a Mikanko from your hand or graveyard, and then you equip it with this card. And then you also have the ability as optional effect to special summon a monster from your opponent's grave to their field. That way, but negate its effects. That way your Mikankos do have something to crash into in the event that your opponent's trying to be coy and not put a monster on the field. And then Reflection Rondo is like their in-archetype Snatch Steal. Really powerful card. You can equip it only to an opponent's monster, and when it gets equipped, as long as you control Mikanko, you take control of the equipped monster. And if this equip leaves the field, you send that equipped monster to the grave, so the opponent doesn't even get it back, which is really strong. So that rounds out all of the Mikanko-specific equips. Then, to round out the rest of the Mikanko lineup, we're playing 1 copy of Great Mikanko Ceremony and 1 Mikanko Kagura. Ceremony is like a quick play that allows you to special summon a Mikanko from hand, ignoring summoning conditions, which does allow you to cheat out the rituals like Arahime and or Ohime, but you return that monster summoned by this card to the hand during the next end phase. And then from the graveyard, you can banish this card to Foolish Burial any Mikanko card, which is very strong. And then Kagura is their in-archetype ritual spell. However, it has a really insane effect where when this card resolves, you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of equips with different names in your grave. And if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed. So not only does this let you ritual summon, but it's also a board breaker of sorts, which is very strong in my opinion. So as a one-of, it's perfectly fine. Again, a lot of these spells, we do, play the souls package. So if we do brick on some of these cards, we just dump them for souls and draw into more live stuff. And then we can always add the Kagura back later through a spell that we'll talk about momentarily. Up next is a playset of Signet Mining. Again, this is a Cyberse focused deck, so we maxed out on minings, not only allowing us to search for our normal summon in the deck, Formative Skipper, but also allowing us to search for cards like Libromancer Fire, EMP Meow Mine, or even if we just need a ritual in our hand to reveal for Libromancer plays in a pinch, we can even search for the Cyberse Sage. So mining's really great, and the discard cost that it has isn't even that terrible, at least in this deck, because there's so many cards that we just naturally want in grave anyway. Like all the Mikanko girls are great discards, most of the Mikanko equips are amazing discards, and so on and so forth. Up next is a playset of Preparation of Rites. Again, really amazing card, just searching us any level 7 or lower ritual from deck to hand, and then also letting us add a ritual spell from the grave back to our hand as well. This is how we can recycle our ritual spells like Mikanko Kagura, for example, which is very important. So we max out on Preparation of Rites. Also good to know that it's not even once per turn, which makes it pretty cracked. Then we also play the 1 Primitive Planet Reichphobia. This is because we can search Visa Starfrost with this on activation, and we get to this card through one of the link monsters that we play, which Formative Skipper can reveal via his first effect. And then we also have the 1 Signet Ritual for the Cyberse Sage that we do main deck, we can actually search both Cyanite Ritual and Sage from deck to hand through the effect of one of our extra deck cards that we run, which is very powerful. And then to round out the last 2 cards, again, it's a 50 card main deck, 1 Libromancer Intervention, followed by 1 Mikanko Spirit Walk. Interventions like their archetypal Omni Negate that Doombroker can set from the deck, and this is why I mentioned that Doombroker is great for going first, because he allows us to set this card, which effectively serves as like an Omni Negate, and a Monster Reborn as well at Resolution, which is just crazy. And then Spirit Walk is a really good removal or disruption card where we can target a opponent's monster and equip it to a Mikanko we control as an equip spell. And then we also have the option to burn the opponent as well if we control a ritual at Resolution. In addition to that, out of the graveyard, this card can banish itself to special summon a Mikanko that is either banished or in our hand. So really awesome traps there in my opinion. And this rounds out the 50 card main deck for my update to LIBROMANCER Mikanko. Now moving into the extra deck, because again, keep in mind we used to play Baron de Fleur, but Baron got banned, so we had to come up with a solution of what to play in its place. We have Cyberse to save one, which was in the list previously. This is what we're fusion summoning off of the effect of Cyber Sage. Really incredible Cyberse monster that helps us extend by allowing us to special summon Cyberse monsters from the hand. But also, we can, it's a level 6, and Sage is a level 1. We can synchro summon in this deck into some pretty cool stuff. And then while it's in the graveyard, if we control a Link 4 or higher Cyberse monster, we can banish this card to negate a spell trap that the opponent activates. So very powerful card here in my opinion. Then we also play the 1 Cyberse Quantum Dragon, which we can make through our Sage plus the Save Worm combo. Very amazing card here in any Cyberse or Link-based deck. And then our replacement for Baron happens to be the Power Tool Braver Dragon, of which we can make using Visas, who's a 6, and any of our level 3s, which could be any of the Mikanko girls and or Geek Boy, which is really nice. And Power Tool Braver just gets us access into our Mikanko setups by allowing us to equip up to 3 different equips from deck or grave to this card. And one of those will usually be Arabesque. Then we can go Arabesque, bounce the Braver, and that's how we get into our Mikanko setups, which I think is really insane. So a really cool line there. And then the rest of the extra deck is just comprised of all Link monsters. We have Scareclaw Lightheart, which is what we reveal for our Format Skipper, 1 copy of Lingaribo, and 1 copy of Link Decoder for our Link 1s in this deck list. Very amazing cards in their own right. Then for our Link 2s, we play 1 copy of Cyber Switch, absolutely cracked in this deck. 1 copy of the IP Masquerena, again, very powerful Cyberse effect monster. 1 copy of Security Dragon, followed by 1 copy of SP Little Knight to round out our Link 2s in this deck, which all help us climb into bigger and better things. Then for our Link 3s, we are playing 1 copy of Transcode Talker, followed by 1 copy of Decode Talker Heat Soul. Very amazing Link 3s, Cyberse Link 3s in their own right. And then we also play, brand new to the extra deck, 1 copy of Link Mail Archfiend. Very cool tech in my opinion. This is in here because we sometimes needed a Link 4 to make when going first to enable our Save Worm line. But I didn't want to go and make Access Code going first, for example. So we settled on this. This card has a really cool effect where when it's special summoned, we can target a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monster we control or in our grave, and then all monsters the opponent currently controls lose attack equal to the targeted monster's attack to the end of this turn. Now, granted, that doesn't do anything when going first because the opponent probably doesn't have monsters. However, this card has really cool protection effects where while this is on the field, our opponent cannot target monsters we control that were special summoned from the extra deck with monster effects. So it gives us targeting protection from all of our extra deck monsters. And in addition to that, if this card were to be destroyed by battle or card effect, we can banish a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz from our graveyard instead. So he self-protects, which makes him pretty difficult to remove, and it also still enables our Save Worm line while also still maintaining an easy to achieve summoning condition, which is really cool. Then obviously we do play the 1 access code for board breaking when going second. And then to round out the last card in the extra is 1 copy of Firewall Dragon Singularity. This is our big Chungus that we play in our extra deck, which we actually make almost every game. It is not difficult to bring this card out in this deck because again, this is a Cyberse focused Link Span variant. If you guys are curious as to how we get here, I'll be happy to show you guys updated combos. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. But Singularity is an absolute house in this deck to end on as an amazing Cyberse boss monster. And then that rounds out the extra deck now. Moving on to the side deck really quick. Again, side deck is always up to personal preference, but this is what I'm choosing to run. We have a playset of Jizukiru, the Star-Destroying Kaiju, in the extra, or I'm sorry, in the side. Now, I know that kaijus aren't really that great this format. The problem though is that in this particular deck, they serve pretty well as, you know, a function, because we're able to kaiju the opponent, and now the Mikankos have something really big to crash into. Especially against matchups, you know, like Yubel, for example, where all their cards just like float anyway and they have 0 attack. We need a way to be able to break through their board, and kaijus help for that. Same thing with Voiceless, you know, you just kaiju over the ritual and, you know, you clear that off the board, and so on and so forth. You know, just deals with any problematic monsters. And then in tandem with cards like Arabesque, we could equip the Jizukiri with Arabesque, bounce the Jizukiri to hand, special Mikanko from deck, and then use the Jizukiri to kaiju something else again in the same turn, which is really crazy. So I think kaiju still serve a purpose, at least for the Mikanko side of the deck. Then we do play the third Ohime in the side, just again giving us an additional ritual to reveal, and also giving us more searchability through our Mikanko setups. And then we also play 3 Cosmic Cyclone, again just for our back row hate, followed by 3 copies of Salesman, which I still stand behind as a really amazing tech card that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. Salesman is absolutely cracked, and the applications for this card are limitless. I mean, call whatever card you want, whether it's on the field or not, your opponent's not using it that turn. So really insane card, especially when going second to help break boards. Then we also play the remaining 2 copies of Arabesque. We just main deck the one, side deck the other 2 for when we know we're going second, which is obviously very strong. And then the last card in the side, which is another card that I feel like doesn't get appreciated enough, is 3 copies of the Black Goat Laughs. Really amazing card, even if you're going second, as crazy as that sounds, because this deck has a lot of discard outlets through cards like Mining and Ohime's effect. If we discard Black Goat Laughs for those cards, Black Goat Laughs Grave effect is immediately live. We could banish it, declare a name, and now the opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters with that name, which is just, it's kind of like an imperm for all intents and purpose. This also came up at YCS Indy, where I noticed the Purely Duelist was playing Black Goat Laughs for the same reason. He would discard the Black Goat Laughs to enable his Purely quick play spells, but I was like, that's a really cool line, so I wanted to try that out in this deck, and it's been working out really, really well. And I think only because this deck does have so many discard outlets, and it's also playing cards like Magician Souls, so even in hands where we draw this and don't have a way to discard it, we can always just Souls this card away to get free draw power as well. So that's going to round out my updated list for LIBROMANCER Mikanko. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Again, I do apologize for the lack of uploads. I'm going to try and, you know, get better at giving you guys more consistent updates to stuff. I'm still going to be in the lab cooking, but hopefully you guys enjoyed all of that. And with that being said, this is Nick, hitting that end phase. Peace. Thank you all for your continued support.